Go back to your people, they told him, but the rancher said, he's mine now. The morning dust hung heavy in Silverbrook when they came for the boy. 3 men on horseback, their faces stern beneath wide-brimmed hats, their eyes fixed on the small figure standing beside Samuel Hartwell's weathered boots. The child couldn't have been more than 8 years old, with dark hair that caught the early sunlight and skin bronzed by the desert wind. That's him, said the man in the center, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. The Apache boy. Time he went back where he belongs. Samuel felt the child's small hand slip into his calloused palm. The boy's grip was firm, trusting. 3 months had passed since Samuel had found him wandering alone in the canyon, half-starved and speaking only a few words of broken English. 3 months of quiet meals together, of teaching him to read by lamplight, of watching him help tend the horses with careful, gentle hands. The rancher looked down at the boy, whose dark eyes held no fear, only a quiet curiosity about the strangers who had come to their small ranch. Samuel had named him Thomas, though he suspected the child had another name, one spoken in a language Samuel didn't understand. The boy had never offered it, and Samuel had never asked. Morning, gentlemen, Samuel said, his voice steady despite the tightness in his chest. Can I help you with something? The lead rider, a man with silver streaks in his dark beard, dismounted with the practiced ease of someone who had spent most of his life in the saddle. Name's Captain Morrison, Territorial Authority. We've had reports of an Apache child living here. The reservation officials want him returned to his people. Samuel's jaw tightened. He had known this day would come, had prepared himself for it during countless sleepless nights. But standing here now, feeling the trust in Thomas's small hand, the words of refusal came easier than he had expected. His people, Samuel asked quietly. And who might that be, Captain? Morrison's expression hardened. Don't play games with me, Hartwell. The boy's Apache. He belongs with his own kind, not living like some white man's pet. The insult hit Samuel like a physical blow, but it was the slight tightening of Thomas's grip that made his decision final. The boy understood more English than most people realized. He had heard the cruel words, felt their sting. Thomas isn't anyone's pet, Samuel said, his voice carrying a quiet strength that made the horses shift nervously. He's my son. The words surprised even Samuel as they left his mouth. He had been thinking of adoption papers for weeks, but had never spoken the thought aloud. Now, with 3 armed men standing in his yard demanding to take away the most important thing in his world, the truth came as naturally as breathing. Captain Morrison laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Your son, the boy's been missing from the reservation for months. His grandmother's been asking after him. Samuel felt Thomas's hand tighten again, but this time it felt different. Not fear, but something else. Recognition, perhaps, or pain. Tell me about this grandmother, Samuel said, kneeling down so he was at eye level with Thomas. What do you remember, son? For a long moment, the boy said nothing. The desert wind whispered through the sagebrush, carrying the scent of distant rain. Finally, in his quiet voice that still carried traces of an accent Samuel couldn't place, Thomas spoke. She sang to me, he said simply, before the sickness came, before everyone got quiet. Samuel's heart clenched. He had suspected the boy's family was gone, but hearing it confirmed brought a fresh wave of protective anger. He stood slowly, fixing Captain Morrison with a steady stare. Sounds to me like his grandmother's passed on, Samuel said. Sounds like whoever's asking after him now wasn't important enough for him to remember. Now, listen here, Hartwell. No, you listen. Samuel's voice remained quiet, but there was steel in it now. I've spent 3 months watching this boy heal from something terrible. 3 months earning his trust, teaching him to smile again. He calls me Papa now. Did you know that? Whispers it when he thinks I'm asleep. Thomas looked up at Samuel with those dark, intelligent eyes, and Samuel saw something there he had been hoping to see for weeks. Not just trust, but love. Real, fierce, protective love. The Territorial Authority doesn't care about one boy's happiness, Morrison said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Rules are rules. Whose rules? Samuel asked. The same rules that put his people on a reservation, the same rules that couldn't keep his family safe from whatever sickness took them. The captain's 2 companions exchanged glances. One of them, a younger man with kind eyes, cleared his throat. Captain, maybe we should what, Jenkins? Morrison snapped. Should think about what's best for the boy, Jenkins said quietly. Look at him. He's not scared. He's not trying to run. When we take Apache children back to the reservation, they fight us. This one, he's home. Samuel felt a surge of gratitude toward the young man. He placed his hand gently on Thomas's shoulder. drawing comfort from the solid warmth of the child he had come to love as his own. "I've got papers being drawn up," Samuel said. "Legal adoption papers. Thomas Hartwell, that's his name now, and this is his home. The territorial court won't recognize Judge Harrison will," Samuel interrupted. "We served together in the war. He knows I'm a man of my word, and he knows the difference between what's legal and what's right." Captain Morrison stared at them for a long moment. Samuel could see the internal struggle playing out across the man's weathered features. Duty warred with something else, maybe decency. Maybe just exhaustion from too many years of enforcing rules that broke more hearts than they mended. Finally, Thomas spoke again, his young voice clear in the morning air. "I want to stay with Papa," he said simply. "This is my home now." The words hung in the air like a prayer. Samuel felt his eyes burn with unshed tears, but he kept his expression steady, waiting for the captain's decision. Morrison looked at his companions, then back at Samuel and Thomas. The boy had moved closer to Samuel now, not in fear but in the unconscious way children move toward the safety of a beloved parent. 3 months, Morrison said finally. "You said 3 months." "Yes, sir, and in those 3 months, has the boy given you any trouble? Tried to run away? Caused problems in town?" Samuel shook his head. "Thomas is the best boy I've ever known. Gentle with the animals, eager to learn, polite to everyone he meets. Mrs. Henderson at the general store says he's the most well-mannered child she's seen in years." Morrison was quiet for a long time, studying them both. Finally, he remounted his horse with a heavy sigh. "I never saw any Apache boy here," he said to his companions. "Must have been a false report." Jenkins smiled and tipped his hat to Samuel. "Yes, sir, false report. Just a rancher and his son." As the 3 men rode away, Samuel knelt down and pulled Thomas into his arms. The boy came willingly, wrapping his small arms around Samuel's neck with the fierce affection of a child who had found his place in the world. "Are they really gone, Papa?" Thomas whispered. "They're gone," Samuel confirmed, holding his son close. "And tomorrow we're riding into town to make it all official." "What do you think about that, Thomas Hartwell?" The boy pulled back to look at Samuel's face, his dark eyes bright with happiness. "I think I like being Thomas Hartwell," he said solemnly. "I like it very much." That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and crimson, Thomas leaned against Samuel's side with the contentment of a child who knew he was exactly where he belonged. Thomas said quietly, "Yes, son. Thank you for keeping me." Samuel's throat tightened with emotion. "Thank you for letting me," he replied, wrapping his arm around the boy who had become his whole world. In the distance, a coyote called to the rising moon, but neither of them was afraid. They were home.